Greetings, heathens and heretics, and welcome to another episode of In the Abyss. Our faces as well, just the two of us, just the two of us this week. Whether you're disappointed on that, I don't know, but hey ho. Old man Reason, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a Saturday. It might be a Saturday when we upload this, but let's pretend it is a Saturday.
Yeah, well, it is Saturday. There's no point in lying about it. It is Saturday. Sun's not shining, but fucking spring's nearly coming. Like it's
It's
starting to feel
it's
warm.
there. I mean, it could well be that spring's already over, and we're now in autumn already. Yeah, it's been a lovely couple of days, isn't it? And I've already done some gardening this year.
Well, that
We've reached that point already where Sunday morning, do a run, nice breakfast, and do some gardening. And what the hell's happened to me?
heavy metal garden. The thing is, your back garden looks like a Manowar album cover, though, doesn't it? So it's all good, you know.
I mean, God knows what's growing out there. It would be like something out the prehistoric era.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to know either. But yeah, hey, look, as per usual, this is brought to you by Radio City Beer Works and their magnificent beer. This one in particular, very, 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 very good, very good. So look, you can still buy it. There's still some left. The world has drunk this like fucking water, to be quite frankly. So I'd get hold of it before it goes. So All Father, look, we all love All Father. Everybody loves All Father, and this is their collab. Take Your Eyes. So get onto rcbw.shop and get involved.
And it will take your eyes if you drink enough of them.
Yeah, of course it will. We haven't gone to the 2112 yet. Anyway, before we talk about let's Rush. No, we know, yeah, we know the
I
rules.
like Rush, but yeah, let's not.
Yeah, well, before Rush, then should we do Arch Enemy
Why not?
or talk about Arch Enemy at least?
Why not? You know what? I'm wearing the hoodie.
Are you wearing that hoodie?
I'm wearing the hoodie, which the 22 years I've had this now since when we saw them at the Camden Underworld back in tail end of 2002.
Was that the same day? Was that the same day as the signing at Metalheads?
It was indeed,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Goodness me, Metalheads, yeah. That's
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that vaguely. I remember a really, really cheesy photo of me and Charlie. I had this massive Hatebreed hoodie back then. It was like about two sizes too big, and I can remember the cheesy green photo of it. But yeah, we were a lot younger back then. So.
Whereas this kind of was slightly bigger for me, and I've not really grown into it. But it's nice and cozy still.
Well, that's all that matters.
Deteriorated.
Yeah,
so
at our age, cozy matters. But that was fuck me. That was a long, long time ago. That's Wages of Sin. So we, quarter of a century ago, pretty much. But this week coming out is Blood Dynasty, new one, 12th studio album, which is mad. 30 years around now, obviously with different singers and different lineups and things like that. But this is the fourth one with Alyssa on vocals, coming after War Eternal, Will to Power, and Deceivers. Now, the reason we wanted to do this is I haven't, just talking about Wages of Sin and that, I haven't really paid a great deal of attention to Arch Enemy since Anthems of Rebellion, the one that came just after Wages of Sin. Since then, I don't know what it is, I don't know why, but I've just kind of dipped off. But this one dropped in our inboxes and, wanted to give it a listen because you're still very much a fan, aren't you? And thought this is definitely worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I stuck around for a couple more albums after you did, certainly until 2007's Rise of the Tyrant or thereabouts, which I've spoken of quite positively in previous pod episodes. But after that, as we know, I kind of fell off the metal bandwagon and didn't pay a great deal of attention to new stuff. So I wasn't really here when Elisa joined. And I kind of overlooked War Eternal at the time, much to my shame. But throwing myself back into metal in the last few years, just in time for Deceivers, the last album, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It was just Arch Enemy doing what Arch Enemy does best, I think. Very familiar territory, but got the hooks, got the choruses. Alisa showing that she's got the chops as well as a few different approaches here and there. And I had a lot of fun with that record. And I still do. So when I heard that they're already releasing a new album, which it's 3 years, so it's overdue. But for me, it feels like, oh, already? Because the last 3 years have just whizzed by.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I did give Deceivers a listen. I did enjoy it as well, but again, I don't think it quite like grabbed me. I listened to it, enjoyed it, and then that was kind of it. So I think that's the way it's been. I've sort of started to dip back into the other albums with Alyssa, and I'm liking what I'm hearing, so I will carry on doing that. But now, Blood Dynasty, um, look, Arch Enemy have got a formula, haven't they? They certainly have done more, probably more so since Angela joined, because before then it was a little bit darker maybe, but the last sort of 20 years, from what I've certainly been listening to, there is a formula to Arch Enemy. Now, before we talk about the album, do they get enough respect in the whole Swedish death metal scene? Because everyone raves about, you're at the gates and, in flames when they were still in flames and so on and so forth. But Arch Enemy don't seem to get the same level of credit. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. And I don't really understand why, because whilst I think they, as you say, they do have a formula, they mostly stick to it. Um, and no, they're not massively innovative or clever or interesting with what they do. They they focus on doing what we want all these bands to do, which is just write great songs, and that's it. And most of the time, they nail that. Some albums won't be as great as others, but if you look at their career over the last 20 plus years, there is some consistency there. We're talking about who are 30 years into their career, and they don't sound tired or anything at all. They're hungry. They're full on, which never used to happen back in the day. It used to be after 10, 15 years, bands just plodded and sound bored. And maybe they've had that point where they've had to change things up. But I don't think they get the credit that they deserve. And I mean, they used to be a sort of super group, or more like a coalition of
Yeah.
Scandinavian metal, really. But I see comments on the internet which just surprise me, really. Feel way more derogatory and unjustified towards what they do. I see the word mediocre used a lot, which I just don't get, because they've got great hooks, they've got great melodies, and that's what you want from music.
Yeah,
So
I think that's probably a fair shout. I think to call them sort of dull or middle of the road or whatever is definitely unfair, because they have always had a knack of writing good hooks, big the big choruses. There's enough sort of traditional heavy metal in the mix to
yeah,
make them sort of accessible, I suppose is the word.
yeah, I think it feels it feels like people's attitudes towards them when it comes to Scandinavian metal is it's very meat and potatoes
Yeah.
kind of thing, or I don't know, sausages and cabbage, as I have in Sweden. I think, trying to remember what I ate at the time. Loganberries, there you go. I like loganberries. But for me, honestly, I think they're more like your mum's Sunday roast. You know what you're getting, and yeah, it's not spicy, it's not hot, it's not super interesting, but you love it. Every time you love it, you gobble it up, you enjoy it, and you know what you're getting.
Yeah. So Arch Enemy, like your mum's roast dinner. Yeah, I can take that. I can handle that. Well, look, that brings us on to Blood Dynasty then. So, what were your impressions first? Just first listen, first run through. What did you think of it?
Well, firstly, the promo is a lot louder than they usually are, so
That
thanks
was
for
yeah, I found
that.
that.
To turn the dial down a bit more, but yeah, I'm clearly too old, as the bloke from Airhead said.
Yeah,
But the first impressions were, whew, yeah, they still got it. They still got it. Um, but also, there's a few differences.
yeah, which we'll touch on in a sec.
Yeah.
So my first listen, my first run through, because you've been more familiar with the recent output. For me, it was more like, ooh, quite like that. Ooh, listen, want a bit more, and a bit more.
That's all you want, really, isn't it? Just a
Yeah,
bit.
at least it's
It's
sort
the
of
perk up.
yeah, it just perked my interest, and I finished the album, and I thought I'm going to listen to it again. And then second run through, I was like, you know what, this is really good stuff on this album, like
This is
really good.
this is the voice of reason reaction is, oh, hello. That's
Yeah,
what it is every
yeah,
time now
basically.
when something gets my attention.
Look, it's a little bit similar to the Cradle of Filth record we talked about, a few days ago, to a slightly lesser extent, but it is the same. Not really expecting.
I think we were more surprised by that album than this album.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Really,
yeah,
I think
hundred
that's why.
percent, 100%. But the reaction was the same, and it was like, oh, 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 it was like having a foot massage or something. But uh, the first track that jumped out at me was March of the Miscreants,
Yes,
which is like a bit of a whole sort of fist in the air kind of approach. And I know obviously Alyssa, she's quite the activist, isn't she, outside the band and whatnot, got a lot of strong beliefs. I don't think a lot of the lyrics are down to her on this album, so that may not be relevant, but the way she sings it and the way she sort of performs it, it's definitely one of these. And so that was the first song that really sort of perked my interest.
it pummels along, doesn't it? It really pummels along. And that chorus just smacks you in the face, big time. But I think what helps that song is you've got a real triumphant solo, real crescendo there. And I think that word triumphant is very appropriate for what a lot of what they do and how they structure their choruses and solos. But the combination of the dynamic of the verse chorus and that solo really, I think, really brings it out more.
Yeah, and it's that line in the chorus, "This is where we belong." That kind of thing will always resonate with metalheads. You know what I mean? It's that whole sort of being part of something, being part of a family, being part of a tribe, whatever you want to call it. I think that this feels like it's almost a set opener. I think it could be a really good, kick off a new album running to tour in the UK in the autumn, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think this would be the perfect kind of song to open a set. Great start. The title track as well is another one, which is a lot more melodic. All that sort of twin lead guitar stuff starts coming through a lot on Blood Dynasty, and again I really like because it's a really strong hook.
And this is it. Yeah. I mean, I think what we're realizing as we listen to this is it's still heavy. It's still
Yep.
full on at times, packs an absolute crunch. I mean, the production is by Jens Morgan, who has a CD the length of Mr. Fantastic's arm. So there's all sorts of great albums there. There's no point listing them all. But for me, it's feeling a bit more rock as well. This album, there's a bit of a sort of there's a clash of the classic Arch Enemy heaviness and the more, I suppose, accessible, solid structure of rock, which you get on that title track, but you also get on Illuminate the Path. And that song in particular, it's got a proper driving rock beat all the way through. But that track is where we really, I think, first see the difference with this album compared to previously, which is Elisa's vocals, because that chorus is a proper 80s arena rock chorus where she sings. It's not the classic aggressive growling, which we get for most of the album as normal, but she sings. And we get that a lot on this album where they've utilized her singing voice, as we're about to acknowledge.
Which is a great singing voice.
But certainly that song, Illuminate the Path, really, really sort of stands out in that regard as something that you could actually play your mum.
So those two songs we just talked about being very sort of anthemic. Do you remember the video for We Will Rise that was shot on the beach and lots of flying shots and all that kind of thing? These are the sorts of songs that lend themselves to that kind of filming, big drone shots and that kind of thing. Fucking
I mean, the honest answer is no, I don't remember it because I haven't seen it for a few years. But
go back and watch it and come back to me with your thoughts.
Yeah,
but it was all filmed. It was all filmed on a beach, and there was a bit of fire and that, I think, from what I can remember. But there's lots of helicopter aerial shots. This is before drones and all that shit in it. So big old, like you said, arena rock kind of presentation, and those two songs that we just talked about would fit that mold brilliantly. So Paper Tiger was another one that I really liked.
I mean that
was like sounds like
really
Priest.
That exactly, it rattles along. There's a proper 80s gallop to that song. And I think there is a big there is more 80s aesthetics, I think, to this album. Yeah, but yeah, Paper Tiger especially, it just goes forth, big old chorus, more solos. Yeah,
There's lots and lots of solos, and the solos are all very well done as well. Everything's
they
nice and
are.
tasteful.
Yeah,
Nothing
they
too, over the top. It all just everything fits nicely.
well, yeah, but that's fine if it is. But yeah, it's all well structured. It doesn't feel forced or unnecessary.
Yeah, no, it's good old proper, twin guitar stuff. But the 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 big old elephant in the room with it is Viva Libre, which I mean, we like it, don't we? And we'll talk about why in a sec. But this is the kind of thing, oh, it's weird. If this was out 25 years ago, I'm going to fucking sell out to writing a fucking power ballad. But it's great.
I think elephant in the room is the wrong term because I think it's bloody fantastic. Quite
It's,
frankly,
yeah,
it's
yeah, it probably is the wrong term.
I,
But
I I I I was shocked that this has obviously happened. Quite frankly, because 30 years into their career and they're dropping stuff like this.
yeah,
They could have done it much earlier if they wanted to. But I suppose ultimately maybe Angela's vocals just didn't suit that approach. And they weren't willing to work with someone outside, but they've got Elisa's vocals, and it's there's no debate here. There's no is it no? It is a full on proper lighters in the air if you're allowed to do that kind of thing now. Power ballad, full blooded, unashamed, and it's in French.
yeah,
It's in French, which yeah.
yeah. That does make a deal. Yeah, it just adds a touch of, I don't know, a touch of class, I suppose. It's certainly better than fucking Toot Le Monde, that's for sure.
I mean, the thing is it's still heavy. It's still got that
Yeah.
crunch.
Don't be wrong.
Even
We're
though
not
it does,
talking nothing else matters here, are we?
yeah. I mean, it does start gentle, but it's a subtle kind of gentle. It's not a cheesy kind of thing. But again, we come back to that solo. That solo is real power ballad stuff.
Yeah,
Real screw it. We're doing this. We're going to go for it. Make it as cheesy if you can, but and ultimately the effect is that it doesn't actually sound cheesy because of how they structured it and how they produced it. It does stand out on the album because it's like nothing else on it, but it also, considering what else they've done, it feels right.
yeah. I think it fits. I don't see it. It's not doesn't feel like it's just been sort of like dropped in for the sake
No,
of it. It
no,
fits with the flow of the album because it's what I think about was it the seventh or eighth song in?
yeah,
Almost
yeah,
towards the end, isn't it? So, and then it kind of builds again towards the end, and it's got a big finish. But um, the intro to Viva Libre reminds me of a lot of Maiden's recent stuff, the long sort of drawn out proggy intros, stuff like Hell on Earth and
yeah,
songs like that. It's got that kind of feel, but that's why it threw me then because it then goes into full on power ballad, which you just did not expect. So fair play to him, I think, just for having the balls to do something like that and make it work with the flow of the album.
yeah. I mean, I'm probably not going to be able to see them live. I think this autumn, but hopefully next tour. But I want that to go down well, and I think it will.
Yeah,
I think their fan base will lap it up, quite frankly. So
well, we're all getting old and soft and anyway, aren't we? So, a good power ballad goes down the storm. But they have to play it. They absolutely have to play it. You can't have a song that bold this late in your career and then not put it in your set and then make a bit of a big deal of it as well, I think. A little bit of production with it, some,
yeah,
whatever. But yeah, I think it will go down well. Anything else that stands out for you?
I think certainly from a song point of view, I think the closing track, "Lies and Thieves," really really strong. Um, but again, there's a lot of stuff that's familiar in there, but it's just they
Yeah.
just do it so well, and it's like, I mean, it's 11 tracks. We're not talking loads of tracks here, but yeah, it hits you long after sort of everything else has sort of laid you to waste. So yeah,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, what you say is it's Arch Enemy doing what Arch Enemy do. It is pretty straight to the point. There's no fuss, no fucking about. just well-written songs. And how many times have we talked about that on the podcast,
Yeah,
that if you've got songs, then you've got
yeah.
half a chance. So it's
I think
probably a stupid. So go on.
yeah, I think there's about maybe two or three songs that are a bit more, I suppose, formulaic.
Yeah,
But they go along at a good pace that's enough to keep you engaged and keep you attentive and still going. But it doesn't feel like, well, let's skip these.
yeah. There's
That's
always gonna be moments that aren't quite at the same level as everything else. But that's normal, isn't it?
yeah.
Fucking Number of the Beast has got invaders, for Christ's sake. So um, this is a stupid question, but will we still be talking about this one in December?
I will.
I think I will as well,
I
because
will
yeah,
certainly. I mean, it'll be top 10 for me. I'm not sure how high up, but unless considering how I feel about the band and what's likely to come along in terms of strength, yeah, I'd say it's probably at least top 10 for me.
yeah, I think it'll definitely be out there and definitely be in the conversations towards the end of the year. There's some nice vinyl packages as well. I think we've
There's a
both
lot of vinyl packages, isn't there?
yeah, there's a sort of like box set version and all sorts. It's like 70, 80 quid or something. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, another week, another surprise album. So that's Raising Speed on, that's Cradle of Filth, and now Arch Enemy.
I'm not surprised. I have to say, you
Well,
might.
yeah, but look, yeah, it's a fucking great album. Go and check it out when it comes out. Tell us what you think about it as well. Um, I think it's out this week. 28th is out, isn't it?
Yep, it's out 28th.
Yeah. So yeah, get it in your ears because it's fucking great. Um, we will be back again next week. Who knows with what? Probably an absolute load of rubbish. Some moaning, I think. Actually, there's some moaning coming. So,
We do some rants, aren't we?
yeah, this is two episodes in a row now where we've raved about things. So it's about time we had a bit of a moan and a grumble. So that'll be next week. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you listen to it on the podcast as well, and don't forget to subscribe because that's what it's all about, and you'll get all the notifications when new videos drop and all that. And maybe a couple a week here and there. There'll be all sorts coming. So yeah, do subscribe and leave plenty of comments. Call me a wanker if you want. I don't mind. Just yeah,
Yeah.
don't speak to us. Until next week. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Stay metal. Ooh.